Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So today we're going to be talking about not really book related, but story related, and I thought this would be a really fun thing to talk about. I was on TikTok like a couple weeks ago and my childhood favorite rom-com movie popped up. You know in those TikToks that there's parts of the movie that you could just basically watch the whole movie on TikTok. And Confessions of a Shopaholic popped up and I had to watch it, so I watched it and I loved it. And then I started thinking, first of all, I love rom-coms. I'm a huge rom-com consumer. I love romance. Ever since I've been a little girl, I love rom-coms. I always pine for the dude. It's a whole thing. Now, why am I here talking about rom-coms today? Well, I know that a lot of people look down on rom-coms, especially as like a form of entertainment, because they say, oh, like it's like chick flicks and like it's stupid and like it's just like cheesy and boring and like it's not real movies. Like, you know those like movie nerds, they always like choose like Pulp Fiction and like tons of those random ass movies. But I'm here to prove that rom-coms, obviously not all rom-coms, but I'm going to give two examples of rom-coms that do storytelling perfectly and so well and shows how rom-coms have so much depth in the characters, in the plot, and in the relationships. All right? So let's get into it. Disclaimer before I start, I will be kind of breaking down start to finish both of these movies. So if you like, there's gonna be spoilers. I'm gonna go from like the start to the climax to the resolution to the conflicts. Like everything will be talked about here. So I'm just spoilers. Sorry. Let's start with Confessions of a Shopaholic. It's a rom-com made in like 2010 or 9 or something. I don't know. Our main character is Rebecca Bloomwood, and she's known to like to shop, and she works at a gardening magazine, but her dream is to work at Alette, this like fashion magazine. I'll put some screen caps on the screen for you to immerse, but anyways, we learn really quickly that ever since she's a little girl, she's her parents have been like they really want to like save money and they don't want to get her like the trendy things, but she dreams of, buying the nicest shoes and like being really, trendy and like all like she loves clothes and stuff. So that's how we first meet her. And here we're setting up her like internal conflict right off the bat. We see that she's scared of not fitting in, not being like seen as cool. Um, and that just continues throughout the whole movie. And notice how we get her like internal conflict slash like something that will make us understand her decisions at the very start. We even see like the moment where she enters a shop and girls are like making fun of her for choosing like the wrong shoes. Flash forward, she's like in her 20s and she wants to go to the magazine Alette. And we notice her immediately like trying to like buy a scarf, a green scarf, and she meets a random dude and she's like, please give me money for my scarf. And she lies, of course, like, oh, it's for my grandma or something. And he gives her the money, she buys the scarf, and then she's actually about to go get an interview for the Alette magazine. She gets there, and basically, the position was taken by some Alicia Billington, and she's like, everything she wants to be, Rebecca wants to be. We also quickly meet Suze, which is her friend. I'm pretty sure they live together. The secretary there slash receptionist there is like, well, there's like this other magazine that's looking for like hiring. So like when you're part of this like family of magazines, because they're all like owned by the same company, it's easy to get into Alette. So she's like, okay, and plus she needs money because she's living on credit cards and she like avoids all of her bills. So she needs a job. So she gets to this like money like investing savings magazine, and the random guy she asked for money is the guy who she's interviewed by. And he figures out really quickly that she doesn't know anything about savings or investing or all that money stuff. And so she leaves. So she doesn't get the job, unfortunately. So let's just pause a little bit and analyze what is like underneath what's going on. All stories and good form of storytelling gets you to connect to the character and understand the character, and kind of the plot or like stuff that happens is what kind of transforms the character throughout the story. So what is Rebecca Bloomwood actually doing? She's doing something that she thinks will make her happy, which is joining the Alette magazine and being able to do all this fashion thing, etc. And she's starting this journey on trying to get that, so doing what we've just seen. Later, Suze and Rebecca start like sending, like they send two letters, one letter to Alette and one letter to the money magazine place, and they get switched. It's a whole thing, but basically what happens is that the money magazine actually gets the good letter because she wrote a bad letter for the money magazine and the good letter for Alette, but it gets switched, so it's actually the money magazine who gets the good letter, and they call her back. So then, so she gets hired in this money magazine thing, and she does like this really like interesting way of like explaining like money stuffs, and she talks about shoes and like dresses and like shopping, and like it's like apparently like it hits the market for all the women. It's like this whole new market, so she gets pretty successful in this business. And just like any rom-com, there's always that like really good thing that's happening, like, oh my god, like the job is working out, she's getting money, and it's everything's great. There's even like a romance going on with her boss, you know what I mean? Then Suze, her friend, starts noticing that she's has a problem with the shopping thing, so she tells her to throw it all away, or like throw a huge amount of it away. And we notice, but then Rebecca doesn't. She like puts all of her clothes in like in the closet, and she has like a lot of clothes, so she has to like vacuum like thing all of her clothes. Again, let's take a pause and see what's actually happening here. The more she goes down this journey, the more kind of not mistakes, but like moments where she could like fix her problem, but instead she's going down the path where like she's avoiding things. She's not like, and it is working out for her, kind of, as in she is getting a job. She is getting like known as to be like the girl in the green scarf in her magazine, but she's slowly going down a dark path. I forgot to mention there's like this guy who's constantly calling her and saying like pay your bills, and his name is Derek Smith. So Derek Smith during this whole movie is kind of like that looming thing she's avoiding, the problem she's avoiding, that is catching up to her. And she keeps like not answering his calls, making excuses. And at first it's very like lighthearted. We don't really like, oh, Derek Smith, who cares about that guy? She's doing amazing, right? Then something happens that really sets in motion the storytelling and how this story is going to change, and the dark path I was talking about. She has this Alette seems quite interested in her, so they ask her to actually like go shopping with them to an event, etc. So she buys a dress, and it's actually Suze's wedding soon, and she gave her a dress, her bridesmaid dress. And so she has these two dresses, and this is where she makes the critical decision that changes how this goes. Suze has been asking her. She found out about how she didn't throw out all of her clothes, so she forces her to go to like a Shopaholics Anonymous type meeting. She does go. She's been going for a while, like kind of. And then but this meeting is very important because before she enters the meeting, she has shopping bags with the bridesmaid dress and the certain dress for the Alette magazine event. And she tells this like lady that's also going into the meeting, and she asks her, "Oh, can you put these my like shopping bags in your trunk?" Like, you know, basically doing like she's taking steps, she's doing things that is just slowly putting her in more and more trouble, and it's all because of her. It's like all her fault. So this lady actually is actually not someone who's just attending. She's actually the new leader. So she tries to teach Rebecca, like, oh, you don't need these clothes. So she like pawns them basically to like a secondhand store. So she loses the bridesmaid and the fancy dress. Rebecca quickly obviously panics because she needs these two dresses. So after the meeting, she goes back to this place and she only has enough money for one dress. Which dress do you think she took? She leaves the bridesmaid dress and she takes the dress for the Alette party. So she gets to the Alette party, she does her best, she does amazing. But then this is where disaster strikes. What is like the worst thing that could happen to Rebecca Bloomwood, would you think? Probably that like she gets embarrassed and everyone hates her and everyone thinks she's like she doesn't want to. Basically the Derek Smith thing is coming now because of the Money magazine thing, and her boss, both of them are invited to like this TV show thing, like live TV, and they're basically asking her like, oh, like so many questions about like her work, her ethic, whatever. And Derek Smith is in the crowd, and the TV show host asked the crowd or the audience if they want any questions. If they have any questions. And he says, oh, like you're a shopaholic and blah blah blah. You're not paying your bills. Everyone she's like everything she's built is just gone because of this threat. That if she just confronted it at the start, none of this would have happened. So she's basically, it's like her demise is her fault. Then she runs to, obviously she's really sad, so she runs to Sue's, but Sue's notices a lady wearing her dress. Like that she this like woman walks by them on the street and she has the bridesmaid dress on. Sue's notices this and that's it. So, let's do a little pause again. At this point, this is the disaster moment that you would see in like a 3-act story structure, like in like storytelling. She decides to go with her parents and just hang out with her parents because of the like everyone kind of hates her. Her friends hates her. The love interest guy is gone. What's his name? Luke Brandon is gone. Yeah, basically her life is ruined. And then when she's at her parents' house, the like I don't think it's the boss of Alette. I think it's the boss of Alette goes to her house and asks her, or like offers her a job at Alette. And this is like a such a crucial moment in storytelling, is this kind of decisive moment where you have to like, she could choose Alette, but that means she's losing the guy, losing the friend, basically doing like everything that she's learned during this movie, she's just tossing it out of the window. Or she could reject it and try to mend stuff. So she chooses to turn down the thing. This is so big in storytelling. It is teaching us so much. So what does she do? She explains herself to Luke Brandon, the guy. She talks to Sue. She buys the dress, the bridesmaid dress back, and she goes to the thing. She makes amends and finally confronts what her fear is, and is finally free. And at the very end there's a scene where there's like moments in the film where like the mannequins in the shops like are like animated and they try to talk to her and they try to like show her a bag or something. And in this scene she doesn't look at the bag, she just keeps walking. And it's just a huge thing. And like, I don't know if I explained it this that well, but basically you could see a clear character growth. You could see a message being said, like, maybe the thing that you want, you're getting it so bad, like it's giving us a clear message. It's teaching us something really important. I mean, everyone could take it differently. How I took it, I mean, it's pretty obvious. It's kind of like you shouldn't lie and like go to such lengths for something while you're like abandoning your friend, lying to everyone. Like, that's Confessions of a Shopaholic. Such a fun movie. Like the storytelling aspect is such a it's a formula that a lot of rom-coms used. Same as like The Devil Wears Prada. What else? 13 going on 30, all of those good ones. But those are not my second film. A more recent film is going to be the next example, which is Holidate with Emma Roberts. I was hesitant with this movie at first. I was like, it sounds kind of dumb, like Holiday, come on now. It is amazing. It is fun. The thing about rom-coms is that it's so fun. I love the romance. It's just, and then plus when the storytelling hits, it's so good. So let's get into the Holidate. The Holidate is we're following a 20-year-old called Sloane, and played by Emma Roberts. First scene is her going to a Christmas gathering with her family, and we immediately get the internal conflict of her, or like the thing that's gonna drive the story, which makes us connect to our main character. And basically her whole family's like, oh, why don't you have like a boyfriend to bring to the party, and like what are you like doing, and you're all alone and stuff. So she wants to come up with a solution to not actually date a guy, but have a holiday, like a guy that like you could like you just take for a holiday date. And she meets this guy in the like kind of coincidentally in the mall, and his name is Jackson, and they don't know each other at all. They're just random people, and they just decide to, okay, let's do Holiday. Most of the movie is just both of them getting to know each other, going on the holidays like Halloween, Thanksgiving, etc. And this whole movie is throughout 1 year. So I think the first holiday they go out together is New Year's Day. They get along pretty well. They're talking. She talks a little bit more about what like hurt her, and like talks about this guy named Luc, and he's like a French guy, and basically he cheated on her, etc. We have this side character that's super important in the story, which is her Aunt Susan. And that's where she got the idea from, because her Aunt Susan has been doing this holiday thing. We quickly learn that Aunt Susan and Sloane are very similar. Very quickly, there's something going on with Sloane and Jackson. Like they have like kind of like a moment on the 4th of July, like there's something going on. There's more than friends here. Jackson is pretty open about it, as in like he kind of open about it, but Sloane is super closed down, and then Halloween rolls around. Here they actually sleep together, and we get to know a crucial part of Sloane. She immediately pretends that nothing happened and just says, okay, I'm gonna see you next holiday. And he's like, excuse me? Kind of sidelining this, her Aunt Susan has been kind of dating this guy, a neighbor, who's a doctor, and they're like getting along, etc. And then the next holiday that appears is, I think, Thanksgiving, and Sloane asks where the neighbor guy is, and Aunt Susan's like, oh, like it's only like a one-time thing, like it's never gonna last or anything. And this is the core of the movie. We kind of learn her internal conflict like slowly during the holidays, but we learn that Sloane basically doesn't want to get too close to someone because it's gonna hurt. It's gonna be scary to get intimate. Like, get close to someone. It's scary. So her solution to this problem is like, oh, I'll just get a random guy. And when romance or like a connection appears, she immediately backs away, just like her Aunt Susan. This Thanksgiving is super important because at this point, Jackson and Sloane aren't really talking because Sloane at the Halloween thing said, okay, bye. Jackson comes back for Thanksgiving. They go off to get some stuff for Thanksgiving dinner, and they have this whole fight. He basically tells her, like, I like you, you know what happened, like, why are you avoiding this, etc. And she's like, oh, I don't know what you're talking about, basically just being in complete denial. And there's this running joke is that like, oh, if like a famous actor, I forgot his name, but the famous actor was like offered her to like go with him, she would go. But then he says, you definitely wouldn't go. Even if it was served on a silver platter, she wouldn't go because she's too scared. I didn't mention, but before she had a talk with her sister, like earlier in the movie where she says like she's talking about like that kind of initial spark with Jackson, and she tells her sister like, I need to be 100% sure that he likes me back, because then what's the point? Because she's scared to get hurt, scared to get rejected. Jackson leaves because he's like, I don't want to deal with this. Couple months pass. It's December, so now it's around Christmas time, so it's a whole year now. Pretty cheesy moment, but it hit me hard. He's running, they're both in the mall where they were like when they first met. He's like rushing out, and she takes a mic from the stage of like the Santa Claus thing, and she's like, Jackson, and then he turns around, and she basically says like, she basically just does the thing that Rebecca Bloomwood did in the previous movie. She says, I'm sorry, explains herself like, I'm just scared, blah blah blah, and they get together and they live happily ever after. She took a chance. She confronted her fear. She obviously, it's a lot for her. It's proving her growth. We're seeing Sloane from the start and Sloane at the end, completely different people. That's why when you look at a rom-com, like to spot a bad rom-com is not having these elements. Like it's not like you only have to have like intense story all the time. Like rom-coms do it so well that they have this like starting point, end point, and having so much fun in between, and all almost like the relationships are so amazing. And I didn't talk about like a lot of the like relationship with the mom and like Aunt Susan. I forgot to talk about Holidate. The Aunt Susan basically tells her like, they end up in the hospital for some random reason, and the doctor neighbor guy is there, and Sloane is like, why are you not like, what, why, like, go get him? And she's like, no, it's only a one-time thing, like it's better to leave before you get left. Sloane, again, this is her realization moment, like during Thanksgiving, because this happens during Thanksgiving, that's exactly what's happening to her. That's exactly what she's doing. So what do we learn at the end of this movie? That yes, love hurts sometimes, but you like, it's gonna be okay. You know what I mean? Like the messages, like I can't articulate it, but you know what I mean, right? Like I could give you so many examples, like Legally Blonde, that also has same structure, and the structure is so simple to like follow. You could do like so much stuff. That's like beauty of storytelling. You could have like a simple loose structure and do the best character growth ever. The primary thing about this is that you want something and you think that this will make you happy, but then you do a journey to get that thing, and then you notice that that thing isn't actually making you is not going to make you happy, and it's this other thing. So it's kind of like with Confessions of a Shopaholic. She's like, if I get to a let, I'll be like loved, and like everything will be great. But then at the end, she realized like, I don't need to be like, I don't need to be like, I don't have to be like super fashionable and like be at a let to be loved, right? Holidate, it's like she thinks that like avoiding love will make her happy, and then but then she learns during her journey that, like love isn't that bad. Like, it could be good. Like you don't have to, like, not everyone's gonna leave you. And I just wanted to talk about rom-coms today because I love rom-coms. If you want like recommendations, all of the movies I've like talked about this video are really good ones. I love It's difficult to find really good rom-coms like nowadays. I feel like a lot of the good ones were made in the 2010s, but Set It Up on Netflix is really good. I love Leap Year. Leap Year is amazing. It also has the structure. So that is the reasons why rom-coms are great at storytelling. Not all of them, but rom-coms are great at storytelling, and give them a shot. I had to write down all the names of the characters because I forgot the names. I think I said everything about what I wanted to say.